Well, hello there, everybody. How y'all doing? It's let's see, what a day. Wednesday? No, yeah, Wednesday. What a day. I'll tell you, folks, it's cold outside and lots of snow. Jennifer will be joining us here momentarily. So I am going to fly solo, and yeah, we're gonna have fun. Been out most of the morning, knocking snow off of tree limbs. That there's a particular, I don't know, madness about knocking snow off of trees, particularly trees that are full leaved, like we have here. No matter what you do to keep the snow off of your face it, it's going to happen. I mean, yeah, I know that, and it's just that cold, bash. It's like getting hit with a snowball. So, Bosto to everybody, and favor be upon us all. And happy birthday and happy anniversary for those who are having one. If you're having one, raise your hand. Okay. Yeah. Lynn and I are celebrating our 9th wedding anniversary. This time 9 years ago, we were in Hawaii. Imagine that, getting ready to be married on the beach. Yeah. Um, who'd have known? Right behind uh, Zuckerberg's house, of all things. So if you're having one, have a good one. So let's see. Yeah, it's been a wonderful. I love that woman. And anyway, hello to Heidi from the Netherlands. And hello to all the rest of y'all from all over the world. We have folks in the Middle East, we have folks in India, Great Britain, Australia, all around the world. So thank you. Thank you, moderators. Appreciate y'all. Y'all are doing just a fantastic job. Hello, Eye of the Maelstrom. I think we've been in it for the last couple of days. Yeah, it sucks, man. I mean, I tried to cover the garden, and hey, it normally would have been fine, but hey, it shows you what Earth can do. In 24 hours, go from Saturday, we hit 102 here. And thank you, Darth. And to inches of snow and cold, just damn cold. That's all I can say. So, oh, you want to see a picture? I'll show you a picture. I was listening to the Moody Blues before we came on, man. Anyway, there it is. That was early this morning. Still snowing. We got another round coming in. So yeah, it you just don't see this. At least I haven't. Why am I, I'm a southern boy, I was raised in the South, and then East, and then West Coast. And you know, where we're from, we don't see this kind of stuff. It's just, you don't see it. So hey, David Barry, how you doing? Spirit Woman, Colorado. I read your thing there about the smoky skies. Hey, Lucky Stone, how you doing? Robert V, snow, snow, snow. You probably getting some up there yourself, aren't you, brother? That's a fact. I'm just reading some of the things here. Now, I'm sure I know Jennifer got it. She may be just not getting time. Hey, Kaz Hawk, how you doing? I got Kaz's coffee sitting here. I do. I'm glad, it's anyway, there's a story behind that. Let's see. What else is Miss Tribal 444? Good to see you. I'm looking down at my little, as y'all know, you have a little window down there tries to tell you when someone else is here. No snow there yet. Well, brother, we got to get you into the party. I mean, summer snow. We had a winter storm warning in summer. I mean, I've seen summer in winter, that I've seen. but I've never seen it where it just turned that quest, boom, and you're there. It's hot, been cranking out organized. Yeah, Christopher Bryden says, hot, brother, hot. Let's see what else is going. Hey, Regina, how you doing? Peace, love, and favor guides our paths. I agree. Hey, Dragon Soul Fox, peace. How you doing? All right. The key to success is two things: flexibility, adaptability. If you can do that, no matter how old you get, you will always remain young. You will. It's only when you become stiff in your beliefs that you begin to show the stiffness. So just a little in there. And again, I just want to say thank you to all the moderators. Y'all are just far out. Appreciate it so much. Um, Tim says Colorado needs potassium too. Yeah. Yeah. Source Frequency says, anyone feel like we are becoming our true selves? Yeah. Yeah. How do you handle those things in your life? It's like your attitude. And I often say this: if you always have an attitude of gratitude, you know, enjoy life, enjoy each day. So I actually do have something that has been um, really like on my mind. As you know, as the bus continues to go down this marvelous far out highway. I mean, it's spectacular. The scenery is nothing else like we ever see on Earth. I mean, we get to see the colors, we get to see the diversity of the landscapes, and what we are witnessing is what we create as we go, and we share knowledge here. I had someone send me an email, and I just want to say thank you to that individual that said that you cover just a huge, vast array of topics. And I said, yeah, that's what we have to do. I think I see Jennifer as she is now on board. So let me bring in our guests. And give me 1 second, folks. Hold on a second there, Jennifer, and I will get you plugged in. There we go. Groovy. Jennifer, are you there? It'll take her a second. Just there you
There
are.
we go. There I am.
Hello,
I'm
how
so
are
sorry.
you?
I'm
No.
good. I'm good. Something happened on the road. I'm used to driving in very in all seasons, and it's still got glasses on. So I've come running in because I was running late because somebody almost had an accident a little bit in front of me on the motorway. And it's just because the sun, I don't know how to explain it, is very odd here tonight. It's not just like a winter sun. It's very intense, and it stayed in the same place for much longer than it should have. Abigail's been out on a horse ride. That's where I was collecting her from. And so she's been out on a long horse ride this afternoon, and she's like, Mum, it's been there for far too long. And I was like, I've noticed that. And so I don't know how that would happen, or what the science would be behind that, but people are struggling to drive. It's so bright and low.
Do you have are the skies clear? Are they blue? Are they clouds?
Beautiful, just
Amazing.
extremely beautiful, to the point where when you stop, and I had to remind myself I was driving, because I like driving, so I get in quite a natural state with it. But I like speed as well. So all of the roads have been lowered here, so I'm having to concentrate a bit. I'm always safe, but I like speed. And
Yeah.
so I like motorbikes and things, and I like that thrill. And so I was having to concentrate, so all of the speed limits have gone from 70 to 50 just over this coronavirus period. And then, so I'm concentrating, and the skies were so beautiful. It was one of those moments that I do have where I stop and think, this is all pretend. This is all, it's too perfect. Because even Theodore, who was sitting in his car seat in front of me, was saying, "Mommy, they look like we could grab them and eat them. Mommy, they look like we could bounce on them." Now, I know clouds do that, and I know as a kid, but he was taken back by it as well. And I hadn't said anything to him. This was just a thought that came in my mind of like, that looks like a painting. It looks like somebody has just perfectly painted that sky, you know? So it's one of those nights where it got me in contemplation, where I had to remind myself, no, you're driving and you don't want a ticket, you don't want a ticket. And sort of come back to, you know, being conscious about driving. So that was how I got here a little bit late anyway.
So how long was the sun
Funny
in
night.
and welcome. I'm glad that you came here, and glad you made it. I've been looking forward to
Oh,
talking
thank
with
you.
you. So I'm
Yeah,
curious,
appreciate it.
as an observer myself, so was the sun, um, because we know that, you know, if you actually have a telescope and you actually follow the sun, it moves very quickly. Most people don't realize that, how
Yeah,
quickly
yeah,
it does move. So
it
what
does.
your perception, and I guess everybody else's, was that, was the sun not only stationary, but did it have a different glow to it, or a different?
It's yeah, it is it's not the orangey color you would get at this time of night. It's not even a purpley sky, which we've had a lot of very purple skies over this last few months, which has been again beautiful but different.
Yeah, not normal.
It's 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 more white. It's more white stroke yellow, but more on the white range than it is this. It's just a different light coming from it. It's more of a white light than it is a coloured light that, you know, would usually cast some kind of colour. And the skies are just crystal blue, you know, but very light blue. So it's been there. Abby was out on a ride for about 2.5 hours because she's training the horse to go longer and longer. So she was out on a ride and, you know, stopping every now and again for the horse to have a drink for about 2.5 hours, and it stayed there, in the same
Very
place where
interesting.
she's very used to the sun. She's like you. She just from being out in the elements and riding at different times of day and
Right.
night, she has to know the sun. She has to know when it's going to all of a sudden, you know, it's like it all of a sudden gets dark, you know, and you think, damn, I've gone too far. I need to get home in the dark now. So yeah, she's very used to the elements like that, and for her to notice it, and may have already noticed it on the way to get her, it was one of those moments where you just sit back and think, there's something to get from this tonight,
If you
you
talk
know.
with Abby again, I'd be curious, did her horse show any signs? Because animals are very sensitive to these type of events.
Her her horse, yeah. Yeah, and Abigail's got a real gift of horse whispering. She can speak to them so clearly, and her horse tonight is so mellow.
Mm, mm,
So mellow. Whereas usually this horse she was riding tonight is quite excitable on a ride. You know, it wants to go, go, go.
right, right.
And the faster they go, the better for the horse. So most of the training usually entails for that particular horse to rein it in and slow down and have a bit of a mix of a ride. But no, this horse is just wanting to, you know, trot along, take in the scenery, and
Interesting.
not just so mellow. So that's a difference in the horse, very much so. So and you're right, they pick up on everything, because where the horses are, it's a lovely area. There's forest all around it, and it's really nice. It's beautiful. I go there all of the time. But the horse just a few weeks ago spooked, you know, got really upset for seemingly no reason, but she always listens to them. They know more than us, they perceive more. And
Yes.
so about the elements anyway. And she got home that night, and she'd literally been steps away from a dead body, a 25-year-old man in a random place in the forest, which, you know, nothing would usually happen there like that. So Abby had actually crossed paths with the dead body. Now the horse knew it. Abby picked up on the horse's energy and said, okay, we'll turn around. But when it was put out over the news that night that they'd found him, a 25-year-old male. So they pick up on a lot that we don't see.
Amazing. Was that in the
Yeah.
forest, by the way?
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was. There's been
Yeah.
a lot of strange deaths, happening, Wayne, and that we're hearing about. And I've had a life, so I've got connections to all various layers of life, you know. And there's a lot of word on the ground and things happening where there's a lot of arrests being made from families that usually wouldn't be touched. And there's a lot of strange deaths.
Interesting.
We just lost a little girl a few days ago,
Mm.
right on my doorstep, 12 years old, 12 or 15, sorry, because there's two gone missing, very young. And she was found dead under a bridge. But they're saying both of those cases the police have put across, and there's about 3 or 4 more that I wouldn't quote because I can't remember them properly. But both of these cases in particular, and the others, the police have put not suspicious as the death. And it's like, hold on a minute, you would usually be all over that. There's been a small mention, and this poor little girl that was found, her parents found out they'd found her because everybody was out searching over social media. The police had put it out over the media before they told the parents. So there's a lot happening to the structures here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of change going on during this time where we've all been, you know, locked away.
I think we've been actually put under a spell, but that's
Yes, I
just my
do
take.
too.
Yeah, I
I do
really
too, because
do.
I've been lifting that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't you think a lot of I know that I've said this, and I think you would think the same. But that a lot of it is just spell work. A lot of what's put out is spells. Even the wording that they use in mainstream media and within the churches, within the other, you know, organized religious structures, their words are repetitive, particularly 3 times, and you know they're very well thought out words. When I look at them and I pick them apart, I say, yeah, that's a spell. You've just cast a spell.
I try to teach everyone because when I learned this, you know, your ignorance begins to dissipate. It's
Yeah.
called etymology. And
Yes, it is.
master wizards, master, you know, high priestess, witches, when they master etymology, that is when you can master virtually changing reality. You can cast
You
spells, and
do.
you're right. The 3 times, as we know, you have, and then there's something in that cadence of 3
Mm-hmm.
that makes it, as they say, amen, so be it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and we do have to. You see, uh, good or bad, negative or positive. At the end of the day, complacency and lethargy almost, and that carrot, sorry, that was hung from the stick of easier life. You know, all of those things that were brought into what would seem easier life, as in externalizing hope, externalizing blame, externalizing forgiveness, all of the inner things that happen, externalizing those. I think that's the biggest spell of all, in that, you know, people, through complacency, we got here. We're all part of where we are right now. We're all part of where we got to right now, because we've, over the generations and within all of the DNA strands that are continuous, there's been complacency. And give anybody their due, whether it's for a good cause or a bad cause. The more passionate ones, the more on it ones, the ones that really fight to keep a hold of the knowledge and a hold of that power, you know, are living their life. At
Yes.
least the few. And I know some people might not like to hear that, but I think it makes it easier to understand where we need to get to as a collective, in that, you know, the most passionate gangsters take over the biggest streets. You know, the most passionate priests have the biggest congregations. You know,
True.
and the most passionate healers, you know, reach the most people. It's the way it is. But through this complacency and this teasing with the ease of life, you know, all of these things, technologies that are good, but in the wrong hands, you know, are a carrot on a stick to say, it's okay, we can make your life easier. We'll be in charge of everything. Don't worry. We'll even be in charge of your heating. We'll tell you we can turn your heating on while you're at the restaurant. You know, all of those things is the preemptive work towards spell work, isn't it? Because then, you know, over the generations, we lose that knowledge.
I'll tell you, you
And
know,
there's
I'm
too
glad we're
many who've
having this
lost that knowledge.
conversation, Jennifer, because I had not really anticipated it, but my
Me neither.
and I want to get to some of your background so people can really get to know you more, but I want to stay
Oh, sorry.
on focus on this topic here, because you see, in my youth, as I look back, and I'm gathering that you're in your 20s. Uh,
No, I'm 38.
well, well, hon, you deaf, whatever you're doing, continue to do it.
Just
So
smile.
smile
Thank you,
always
though.
does,
Thank
it
you.
works.
Yeah.
Yes. So the thing that I have found, um, I was very much a part of what I realized in Christianity was very much powerful magic. I was around individuals. I know Joel Osteen. I knew
Wow.
his
Yeah, I
father,
know that
John
name.
Osteen. Went to John's church for quite a while there in Houston. I knew men like Kenneth Copeland. I've known others that could fill stadiums.
Yeah, me too.
And being very close to them, I look back now, and really what I was getting was my apprenticeship, because these were powerful wizards.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They,
yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, this was powerful spell magic. Someone
Yeah.
would say Jesus magic. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's the when I was younger, because I came from a very Christian family, but I had the blessing of my granddad, who was a very brave man. I'll have to show you his belt one day. And he taught me a lot, and he always stayed away from the church, but I knew he was a very good man. And so it was a bit confusing, you know, that everybody was saying he would go to hell, you know, because me and him was so close. He was my best friend. And so he taught me a lot just through example, not through preaching, not through anything like that, just through showing me what he does. And so I had that as a saving grace. But my mum had me very young. You know, she was 16, and she's a very intelligent woman, had all of the, you know, life. She'd been offered scholarships for artwork while she was at school and things. But she was pregnant with me, and she chose to go forward with that. And obviously, being in a very Christian family, was rushed into a marriage, you know. So there were children, and she did a damn good job for being so young as to be a mother. She was fantastic.
absolutely.
And so, but she was very powerful and is very powerful spiritually, and that was recognized by the church. And so they recruited her. And I remember thinking as a child, well, they're recruiting they're recruiting my mum. And so when I was at the church, we were in it was at the time of the big movement of the Kenneth Copeland movement that came through the UK.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you might know Ken and Lois Gott,
Yeah.
who worked. Yeah, well, that's who my mum was secretary to. She was
Is
right
that right?
underneath Lois. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they promoted her. Yeah. And so, and she's very powerful. And so when I was 12, I started to speak in tongues. My auntie, my mum's oldest sister, looked at me and said, "What have you got to say?" And I started to speak in tongues. I knew what I was talking. I knew what I was saying. I felt it, and she was just overwhelmed by it. I wasn't frightened of it at all. I knew it was my power. And so that came into mind. And so but when my mum was the same. My mum could speak in tongues. She would walk in a room, and if there'd been any darkness there, it would flee before she even got words out. You know, she had that, and she still has that prowess. You know, you didn't mess. And Ken and Lois Gott recognized that, and they recruited her. And so it took a while, but she started to see through it. Now, Wayne, I remember as a kid having to go to Royal Rangers, you know, at the church and listen. We were at Beth Shan originally, and listen to the stuff. It didn't resonate with me. It didn't make sense to me because I had a personal relationship with source energy. I had a personal relationship with these colors that I've always seen. And this energy that I felt, the tingling in my hands, meaning different things. You know, as a kid, I knew all of this. So somebody telling me I wasn't allowed to do that, I wasn't allowed to speak directly, you know, I wasn't allowed to know that about myself. Basically, that's what the teaching was. Didn't make sense to me. I knew they were lying. Because I knew that I could do things, and so I would pray over people, and they would get better, or they would have their pain eased, or they would, you know, things would happen. Things happened. I was very literal and still am, and so when they said, you know, things flying through the air in Bible stories, I broke my nose many times, throwing myself off the side of the house, because knowing that I could fly. And that's on my medical records, that, you know, and every time I got a little bit further. And I broke my collarbone later on, dislocated my hip because they said he could walk on water. Well, I said, I'm going to walk on water then. And so in the bath, practicing as a kid, you know, to step on the water, and every time feeling like I had a little bit more buoyancy, you know, a kid's imagination. But I didn't have, so I slipped over the bath. And so there was many accidents due to church, because they would tell me these stories and I would know I could do it myself. So my mom had to be very careful with me as to what I watched, what I listened to, because I would know that, well, there's a possibility I could do that, you know, I would go and try. So that's who I was as a kid. So when the Ken and Lois Gott thing with the Copelands started, I was in the real mix of it all, about 13, 14.
Yeah, oh boy.
Really deciding I didn't want to be around this anymore. I remember people being slain in spirit.
Yep.
I remember the energies that I saw around a lot of those people, Wayne. And my mum started to see it, that they weren't good entities that were swimming around some of these people while they were incapacitated. That was my deciding point to never go back. When I saw a couple that were just a couple of these entities who looked at me, I could feel it, you know, and I had to say, not today.
It's
No.
very interesting that
I go outside.
so, you know, because this is a type of magic that most people don't realize, and it's right in front of them.
Yeah.
You know, where
When I watched people, sorry,
no,
I watched people put in, because they put the churches in the poorest areas. yet if the poor came in, they would look down on them and make them feel uncomfortable. And then they would wonder how their really expensive cars in an area where people couldn't afford to eat were getting damaged. And it was because, you know, they'd been told they were welcome and they were never made to feel welcome. It was judgmental. And I remember, you know, I remember people seeing people that my mum would help out through the week with food packages because they'd put in all of their money, because Kenneth Copeland was standing up there and speaking the truth and speaking the possibilities of having 8 Harley Davidsons and speaking the possibilities of you will prevail, just give me your money, buy my book. I watched people that I knew couldn't afford to feed themselves put in their last. If that isn't spell work, I don't know what is.
It's exactly what it is. And I being around Kenneth for many years and others like, you know, Jerry Savelle, uh,
Yeah.
Creflo Dollar, Jesse, uh, I'll think of Jesse's name here in a second. But and being around all of these ministry leaders that I was growing up, um, I look at it now, and first of all, where I saw the most adultery was in all these mega churches. There
Yeah.
was there was more sex going on. You know, you didn't need pornography. You literally had it
No.
going on the church staff. Um, and it was a con game, but it was the masterful part of how the spell comes about, because Kenneth is considered in many people's gods a demigod,
Yeah.
because if
Yeah.
you listen to him, God wants you to have a citation 10 as well. And
Yeah.
gee, I don't know. I haven't seen God hand out many $30 million jets to everyone in the congregation.
Yeah.
And
I doubt that God cares very much for stuff that's killing the
well,
mother,
that
I
is the
doubt
point.
he.
It's what God is being talked about. But I watched the spell magic, where
Yeah.
the manipulation, and when you watch people, they fall under. But I want to get into that point when you talk about particularly being slain in the spirit. Um,
Yeah.
uh, it's really where I got my spiritual indoctrination, was those decades working in that Pentecostal, environment.
Yeah.
And I saw both the dark and the light
Me
of
too.
these entities.
Yeah.
And you can't talk about it very much, Jennifer, because you've experienced it. And it's interesting. Can you still speak in tongues?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so can
Yes.
I. Yeah.
I, I
You know,
stopped for a lot of years questioning it, and you want to make sure of things,
yeah.
but I know what I'm saying. One weird thing that is probably off the wall, but that keeps coming up when I speak in tongues, is salamander, and this sort of the salamander energy being a very ancient
Yeah. It's going
entity, a
back.
very ancient energy. Now I don't know much about that, but it keeps coming up for me because
Hmm.
sometimes I'll go into tongues and it keeps coming up for me when I do. It's a salamander energy, and it's like fire,
That's
and it's
Sumerian.
swooping. I don't feel any. I don't feel. Is it Sumerian? Did you say?
Hmm.
Wow.
It dates
So
back to, yeah.
Wow. So I'm digging into that at the minute. I'm just like
Yeah.
meditation, through just thoughts. I'm sort of trying to dig into. So what is that about? What do I need to know about that? I don't feel any nasty presence from this energy. I don't feel any nasty intent. It's just present around me right now, and it's speaking of the, and I know it's ancient. And obviously you've just said, because you know so much more
I just know
regarding
poquito.
things like that. So that's no, I don't doubt that. But yeah, the energy of the light and the dark within that movement is part of it, I think, because you are just like the services, just like everything reflecting on everything. Just like you see the services and systems that we rely on, social services, the police, the health service, whatever it might be, these services have been built upon predominantly lies that will create more money for the few. But within those services, just like that movement, there's very good people like my mom, like yourself, who want people to do well, who want people to heal, who want to spread, that love energy, who want to have that connectedness. So you can't, that's the trick of it. To me, that is a very clever spell, because to include the light openly is to one, get away with it for so many years, because enough good is being done through these movements that there's still that, it's a little bit like the lottery ticket, isn't it? There's still that ray of hope, because you see people winning every now and again. So you'll continue to put your tithe in, you have to continue to put your last in, but at the same time there's the dark side of it that is building that energy up of the light, but of not sovereignty and divinity, of externalization. So it's hard to see, it's hard to pick apart, and it's hard to challenge, because like we say, there's the light and the dark in it. So that's deliberately done, I feel, to create that balance, to create that longevity.
There's a process that, I'm an ordained minister, and, I've disavowed that religion, but in our training is that when the altar call was given and the people would come forth, and I mean, that's really just the slaughter of the sheep is what it is. But when they came up, we would always usher them to the back room, and it would be in the back room where, we would start telling them about the Holy Spirit. That, well, you've taken it this step, there's a couple more steps. You need to be baptized, and you also need to be baptized in the Holy Ghost. And what I noticed over the years were those that were empathic, those that had natural giftings of magic within themselves, were the ones that so earnestly, when they felt that power initially, that they begin to really want to know, well, what is this power? And many have left the church and have now gone into the occult and now practicing their giftings.
Yeah, and I feel that's what I did. I feel that's what you did. And it's so, again, take the good from the bad. There's lots of people that they take a gamble as well. They take a gamble on these spells, because to me, any spell work, you create the instruction, you create the intent, but you have to cast it out, and you have to rely on elements to carry it to the right place, or give it the right alchemy to work. And in the main, you do need the other side. You need that circuit board for a spell, don't you? You need that. So where they can say, in the last 7 months, cast this spell out of an illusion of something to be feared for, they needed to rely on enough fear feedback to create the full circuit. Otherwise, there's a cut in that circuit for that spell. And so, that's how I put it for myself. And so they take a gamble on how many people are they actually going to train up. And, like other orders that we know that go through levels and training and, gates that you can get through if you try a bit harder. They take a gamble on how many will leave with those skills. How many will leave with the knowledge?
How interesting. That's a very interesting point of view, because you do leave with skills.
You do.
So about
so nothing
yourself.
is sealed.
No. About yourself, Jennifer, how did you, okay, so you grew up in a Christian environment. Are you still Christian? I mean, okay. How did you, basically, I call it breaking the God spell. And in fact,
Yeah.
the New Testament warns about this. Actually, it's in Second Peter. And as it's so
Okay.
ingrained in my thinking, because that's the worst fear factor, it says, you know, woe unto those who have tasted the fruits of the cross and then trampled the blood as meaning nothing. It would have been better for them never to have been born than to reject the blood of Christ. Now that's a freaking curse, is what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I
Like,
mean,
what?
you speak that, and my spine, you know, when you're
Yeah, you
speaking
just go,
those words, and I've heard them before. It's like, oh, really? Okay, let's get it on. Come
you
on,
see, and that, there you
I'll
go.
just break that one. So,
Jennifer, you are
so yeah,
truly
you
one of
do
the
have that
tribe.
impulse.
By the way, folks, you
And
need to
I'm glad
go
to
and
hear it.
you need to subscribe to her channel. I put her Instagram, her
Oh,
Twitter
bless you.
account, and YouTube. Subscribe to this. So I want to hear how the story of, you know, diverting past. Now there's been a schism. So how did you get to where you are, and how did you realize the gifting that you have?
Yeah. Okay, so I was born with, I'll fast forward this because I don't want to bore anybody, but I was born with quite a few medical conditions that, you know, I've had to have serious surgery for over the years, and, you know, nearly gone a few times because of it. And so, and I brought up in the church. I had certain healings, but the healings I had in the church weren't through anybody else but my mum. I broke my collarbone once, and she prayed over it because I was pregnant with my first child, Abigail. Again, I got pregnant quite
Love that
young,
name, by the
and
way, Abigail. That's a
oh,
beautiful
thank
name.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she came as Abby at first, but then there was a gale force wind the week she was born, so it was Abigail. You know, she comes in a big gale, and she meant it. Um, so that's how I chose that one. So she's Abigail Deborah, and Deborah being my mum. So I was pregnant, so they couldn't do anything really. So it was painful. But that's okay. I'm okay with pain. But it was really, I was upset that I'm not an egotistical or vain person at all, but I just, at the time being pregnant and hormonal, I was looking and thinking, I like that bit being straight. I liked it straight, and I got really cross about it, which isn't like me. And my mum lay hands on me and moved it. It moved. But when my mum prayed, as hijacked and indoctrinated as they tried to be, because they wanted her, she was powerful, they knew it, and she's very good at organizing and very, very good office work, managerial. So she had those attributes. So anyway, she moved it. But when my mum prayed, she always just did it in her own force.
Oh,
You will move.
fantastic.
You're my
Yes,
daughter's
yes.
bone. You'll move.
Excellent.
You, so there was that. I never really had that from my mum. I had her using her words, her intent, her force as my mother to say, "You, this body will do as it's told by me," and it did to a great extent. Um, and so I shouldn't have half as many straight bones as I've got for many accidents. I was a bit of a tomboy, and so we went through the church period, which was very annoying to me, because I didn't want to go any Sunday. I didn't want to go. You know, family life didn't match up. Other people's families that I saw going to church didn't match up. Whereas on Sunday, they were in their Sunday best, being kind to their children, you know, having a great marriage and things like that. During the week, they were fighting or being cruel to their children. So to me, it was all a big show. And I didn't like that. I'm very real. So as a kid, I never felt fully indoctrinated into it. 13, I decided that was done. And that was because of the entities that I was seeing around these people that were slain in spirit. Not all of them, but some of them. And they were feasting. It was a feast.
I tell people
Um,
all the time,
I
that's
know
what
that
they're
sounds
doing.
harsh. yeah, it was a feast. It was like a horror movie for me. Having an imagination like mine, I'd never been allowed to watch horror movies. So to me, it was a case of, so I told my mum that my mum had already started to see what this was all about. This was big business, you know, this was multi-million pound dollar deal business. You know, it was nothing to do with the people my mum really truly cared about and wanted to have abundance in their life. Um, so it was hard to break away because there was the family indoctrination around my mum. And it was more about, she was the youngest sister of six, you know, so she was the baby, and but very powerful. So I'd left the church before my mum managed to. It was a few years later. But as for praying over people, knowing that I could do things, excuse me, make things happen, you know, have intent for things, that I don't remember not having that, Wayne. I don't remember not having that. I remember walking away when I met my ex, my boy's dad. It was a very violent relationship. It was very dangerous. So that period of time, I turned into a shell, an ostrich, putting my head in the sand. Um, and then I found my power again after that. Now, through that experience again, take the good out of the bad. He trained me. It was like coming out of the church at that point, getting to meet him out of this Christian family. Um, you know, I didn't know people like that existed, that could look so nice and sweet on the outside and be so dark with intent on the outside, sorry, on the inside. And so he trained me. He actually honed in the skills I've got now. And so for a while, people were calling me the victim, but it wasn't really like that. It was a case of, and I'm not defending anything he does, I'm just trying to say to people that they can take away good things out of the worst and most abusive situations. In that, that was like going through boot camp for me. Of, yeah, it's not just because deal with dark entities. You know, I'm not saying I'm the biggest and baddest, but I don't get fearful of that. You know, bring it on. And I've been like that since being a kid, because that's what I was exposed to. But you know, people, I hadn't really learned how to take on people's energy and their intent and shut that down as far as my energy field is concerned and my children's energy field is concerned. So through that process, I went through boot camp. So I'm pretty good with people now too, even the ones who are narcissistic or, you know, have darker intent. Or so one way or the other. Oh, 1 second, sorry. I don't know what this is. Oh, sorry, Wayne.
No, that's okay.
Um, I'm so technically challenged.
Don't worry
I'm
about it.
getting there. Facebook was in the background. So yeah, I've been through boot camp with that, and that's where I got to where I am now. I've been split up with him about 6 years now. I left when I was pregnant with Theodore. And so since then, yeah, I've been completely single. I needed to do that to repair the sacred sexual energy that I talk about and
Yeah,
make that whole, you know.
yeah,
And to be honest, it feels great, because the only reason that relationship came into my life was because, you know, my mom had a hard time through her marriage. I saw certain things that she had to accept, and I was primed and positioned to have that gaping void to introduce somebody into my life, because that's something that I hadn't even realized was there that I needed to work on. So because of him, because of the darkness that happened around those years, whatever loss there was, it trained me. I lost a son during that relationship as a newborn, and so it trained me and honed me in all areas of loss, of love, of passion, of fear. It made me not fear anything at all, including humans, you know, because I didn't really fear entities very much, but
yeah.
humans I didn't have quite as much experience about. and now I do.
So Jennifer, share if you want to. It sounded like you were in a very dark place, and I've been there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, I mean, and I tell people it sometimes you have you have to go to the abyss to really
oh yeah,
understand who you are.
yeah.
And, when you have a rope around your neck and you're literally teetering between
Hmm.
that fine line, you find out what really is there. So, at what point did you know that you were at your lowest, and how? Because a lot of people don't make it back. How did
Yeah.
you make it back?
Um, I'm a pretty determined character, I found that
Tenacity.
out. Um, yeah, I've got that tenacity. And my children, um, the children were my saving grace. Um, I'm a very caring mother. I'm a very protective mother. And when I started to see that they were seeing a lot more than I thought they were, when I started to see that I couldn't provide for them, Wayne, because I'll tell anybody anything. I'm an open book, and part of the threat of this relationship, if I left, it was that there would either be lies spread, or the certain things that I did have to do to survive would be spoken of. So
Mhm.
in the end, and I did fear that was my one fear, of the judgment of family, friends. And when I lost that, and that's another thing he trained me on, he made me lose the fear of judgment.
Mm.
When I lost that, when I actually said, I'll tell them. If they don't stick around after that, or they don't believe what they need to believe after that, then that's fine. And the moment I did that, the moment I said, coupled with the fact that I had police coming round every day to check on me, I had them reinforcing the house I'd been moved to so that no letter bombs could be put through the door. I had alarms being fitted, and emergency phones to the police, which they still make me have, but I don't use. And so all of these things being put in place, it was victim, 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 victim. Until one day I said, please don't say poor little Jenny anymore, because they said to me, if you go back, you'll be leaving in a body bag. Because I tried to leave a few times, and you get pulled back into it, the sob story, the sorry, and the dependence at that point, because all of the wealth had gone.
Powerful
So
magic there.
very powerful. Narcissism and violence is a good cocktail,
Oh, they're powerful
to
spirits that
if
back
you
that
want to
up.
be rolling about in the deep, in the dark. Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
used to hear voices. I used to hear
Oh, I have
voices,
no
and
doubt.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
My
yeah, you
dad was a
did.
very violent
And
man.
right,
And
right.
so,
So you've seen it.
oh,
You've seen it.
felt it
That
too.
switch. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Me too.
yeah, it's like, man, not only did I live it, I
High
felt
five.
it. Well, one, I am
Yeah.
so, if I could, I'd just give you a big hug. Women in violence
Oh,
in relationships, it's in this day and age where it seems like equality is being screamed. No one talks about the domestic abuse,
no.
the lives of, and unfortunately, it's so often it's the women and the children whose
Mhm.
spirits are broken in these abusive environments. And I just want to say I'm
Yeah.
so proud. Is not I'm so honored to see to call you
Oh,
friend and to see how you have emerged. I mean, you are an example, I
oh,
think,
thank
for
you.
not only women who struggle in these relationships, but for men as well.
Yeah, absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. I've met some men now that go through it, and again,
Yeah.
there's different challenges to that, because do men not feel the same way that women do? You see, people forget that at that point there is no gender. That's the one thing I can agree on with all this gender stuff.
Yeah.
In that
Isn't that the
the
truth?
emotions, the emotions, the pain, the wounds, the hurts, It's a little bit like rape isn't sex. It's not about sex, it's about the power and control. It's the same cocktail, whether you're male or female. You feel the same waves of emotions, of fears, because it's genderless. It's a cocktail, it's a magical spell that is so powerful that it doesn't matter whether you're a hero or a child, whether you're a man or a woman. It can hook you in, it can fool you, and it can stop you from, whether you're a man using your manly power as in muscle mass to stop it happening, or a woman, whether you can use your intuition or your communication to get to somebody, to speak to them and just leave. It's an invisible chains around your neck, male or female. And
These
so, but
narcissists that
thank you for
are,
saying that.
well, listen, dear Jenny, and I love it. Can I call you Jenny? I guess you go by Jenny, right?
Oh yeah, I get
Yeah,
Jen,
yeah,
Jenny,
yeah.
Jennifer,
I
whatever.
love that. And I'll share this with the audience, is that the darkest, most powerful sorcerers I've met have been particularly men who are abusers of women. Uh, and if you watch
Yeah,
the narcissism and how they manipulate the individual, and many of us have, we've encountered. I back in the 80s, I worked with Billy Joel, and he worked with the organization that we had a suicide hotline for teenagers. It was called
right.
Kudos, Kids Under 21. And it was during that time that I learned that these individuals that manipulate, particularly in this case, it was primarily women, is that it's almost vampiric. They feed off of
Oh
them.
yeah, yeah.
Would you say that that is
Oh, they
true?
do, they do.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. I didn't. I think it's reflected as above, so below. That rule, as within, so without. And so, as far as women go, when we're talking about, again, it's this subject that is sort of covered in a huge way, that everybody knows what feminism is and all of this, but actually it's not covered at all. Hey Theodore, say hi to Wayne. Say
Hello.
hi.
Hello.
Theodore,
Hello,
you're being all
Theodore.
shy. So they cover it in a huge way without covering it at all. And if you'll know more than me, you look at the ancient spiritual knowledge of the divine feminine five-pointed star, the five processes of the female lifespan being turned upside down
Yeah.
and pointing at the devil. And so with that, and then we talk about different things, and the sacred cow, the mother, the nourisher, and you have that ball type, the horns all of a sudden becoming a bad thing. The horns always represented the mother, the nourisher. And look, we use cows. That is a magical spell. We have so much greed about steak and things like that we have thousands of cows a day mourning their young because they're taken from them so that they can produce more milk. And I really feel that was, and again, that's spell work. It's putting
Yeah.
in
Wow.
the instruction, the matter, and that all feeds into this degrade the mother. Degrade the mother, because if you can get a boy to degrade the mother, i.e., any future woman he meets his mother, then at that point you're going to keep that mother downtrodden. If you keep the mother
Mm.
downtrodden, then the boy can't stand up on top of her. The woman being the substance, the land that we stand on, for her to mourn in such a way and have such an illusion put upon everybody's eyes, to say that a cow is just a cow and it doesn't matter if we waste them. There's no reverence to life there, and so you finish off the spell for them. For people throwing out meat that they haven't used in time, think about that. That's spell work. It's degrade the mother, literally throw the mother away, let the mother mourn. And
Mm.
we should all be mourning for the children
Yeah.
right now. because the children have been affected the most and continue to be so. And so that is, I think that is about feminism. That's what real feminists should be speaking about, to say that these organized religions, whether it's this one, that one, this one or that one, but I know most about Christianity, deliberately turned our symbols upside down and marked them on the most beastly character that they could come up with, so that that symbol was now giving off the upside down, the misshaped, the disfigured, the disformed, the dark resonance that it gives off, the vibration that symbols give off. People, I think, need to know that these symbols give off sound. You draw a
Yes.
symbol on a bit of paper for a spell, you create sound. It's alchemy in itself, because you put in those angles together that create a certain sound. If you can turn that same symbol, like the Nazi, as the Nazis did, and look how powerful that spell was. That was a sigil. They turned a
Yes.
peace sigil
A peace
into a
sigil.
slaughter sigil.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did the absolute opposite. It was sacrilege of that symbol, and look how powerful it was, because people just wore it happily on their arm. And then people are happy to just wear masks, regardless of any kind of, science or thinking, and they can't see the correlation between that. And they'll say, but this isn't the Nazi sticker, this is a mask. It's the modern day one, so what do you want? Do you want exactly the same? They're not going to reproduce that. So I think we see the spell work, if we look for it all throughout, and we see how powerful it is. And
Yes.
nearly all of it, as far as I'm concerned, relies on fear. That's the feedback. If they get the fear, then they're not going to have to put up with many divine souls. If they get that fear feedback, then they can conform you to whatever they come up with next. So the mother, yeah, I think that being one of the most powerful things also in Christianity, as far as I'm concerned, in that I saw the women within the church as being subservient, being prostituted, wearing their red lipstick and, making sure plenty cups of tea were getting to the Copelands and whoever else was there. Lots of other visitors came through the movement. And so yeah, I think that you see that within the church reflected very deeply, that the mother is subservient, when actually it's the other way round. And it's not that either is better than the other, but one is negatively charged, one is positively charged, and you need that negative space to hold the positive spark, so they know exactly what they're doing, and it's so deep. It's so deep.
It is deep. This has been deep. I have no
Sorry.
idea, Jenny.
I'm ranting.
I love this. This is the type of conversation that I really, really enjoy, because although we may be separated by an ocean, it's refreshing and reassuring at the same time, that there is a mindset that extends around the world in this group. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it shows that there's very little space between us at all. I connect with very few, but it's growing more and more, and the energetic connection, and working with energy, loving energy, seeing energy, feeling it. I love that it's peaking right now,
Mm,
and I do think it got away from them. I do think they trained up too many people. They didn't think of all of the children that were sitting watching. They
yes.
didn't think of all of those kids that were sitting watching, that were never really drinking, I think you say Kool-Aid, but drinking the cider. They were never really drinking what they were offering. They were just forced to be there, but they got the teaching. They saw how they worked. We were infiltrators, we were spies. There's lots of kids like that now that are adults now. There's lots of people like you who, and like my mum, who raised up organizations.
Your
Have that
mic is still.
training. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
your
that
mic
better?
was out. Your mic was going out.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah,
So
that's
sorry.
okay.
So having that training, I think the numbers of the amount of people we've trained up got away from.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree.
which is positive.
I'd love to have you back on, and I'm going to be over watching your channel more. You have a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, Jenny, and it's wow. I hope you come back on, and
All right.
I know you come on Fridays, and I appreciate that even more so. And I think so many of us are getting to know you, and I just feel honored. You're the type of energy that this group attracts. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you. I do appreciate that greatly.
well, I'm going to have to go back and watch this again. That was some good teaching there, folks. You have, wow. We're going to come back on. I'm going to have you back on, and I'd love to get
Oh,
more in
brilliant.
depth on some of these topics.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I love to dig into
Good.
put them back together if I like them.
All right, my dear. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Check her out. Get out and go over there and subscribe. I mean, folks, this is a deep group, and wow, I'm humbled, and I'm in awe at the same time. Jenny, this fantastic show, dear.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everyone.
It's a lot coming from you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, you're
Bye,
the best.
everyone.
All right, we'll see you on Friday, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be here. I'm loving it. It's really cool. I love reading tarot for people, so it's good when I get clients. But I just like doing it anyway, so it's cool for me
Well,
joining this group.
you're gifted. It's not it's more than a talent. It's like when I wrote you, it's a gifting.
Thank you.
You do. Jenny, you have a great command of communication, and you can converse your ideas in a fluidity of where people can comprehend, and that's a gift, my dear.
Oh, thank you. Because I do talk a lot, and then I think I can't remember what I talked about. So I'm glad when it comes out right.
You're doing okay. Like I said, whatever you're doing,
Yay!
keep on doing it.
Yeah, we're winning somehow.
Oh, well,
Let's
thank you,
see.
Jenny. Thank you, everyone. It goes to show you this is the depth of this group here, and wow, I'm going to think of mom in a much more deeper sense, dear. I'm going to have to just let you know.
It, yeah, it's
Oh,
moving. She's been shaking the bones to the surface. I know you've got to go, but that's a vision I've had for a long time leading up to this time. Um,
well, let's talk
there's
about that
bones
the next
being
time.
uncovered. Yeah, yeah, that would be
Okay.
awesome because
Okay.
that's deep. Yeah, she's making herself known again. It's like,
All right.
whoa.
I'll send you an email, and we'll schedule it, and we'll get the date booked.
Yeah, that's
All right, my
brilliant.
dear.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Much love, everyone.
Bunch of love. Bosto to everybody.
Bye. Theodore.
And tell Thomas it was good to see him. He's
Oh,
is
Theodore. Yeah,
Theodore. Theodore. Thank
Theodore.
you. Yeah.
Thomas was my dad's surname actually. So yeah, but is Theodore, yeah. Theodore
Theodore. I
Henry.
love that. Okay, my dear. Peace to you.
Much love.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.